Storyteller's Pub presents The Catch by D.L. Strand, narrated by the author. They killed my grandpa on a Tuesday. I forget the month, although I know it was spring because I remember how the morning sun shined on our front lawn and the dew sparkled like shattered glass. They knocked on our front door like Jehovah's Witnesses handing out copies of the Watchtower, but they dressed in matching black suits, and both of them had haircuts from out of a 1950s spy movie. One wore glasses with thick black frames. "Is your mother home?" No hi or hello, they just got right to it. Now that I think back, it was a stupid question. Everybody was home, everywhere. I was 8 years old. Just like everybody else, my folks couldn't go to work because of the pandemic. I'm not talking about the first one back in the early 20s. This was the big one, the one that changed everything, the one that still keeps us in our houses behind locked doors, hoping to God for a cure. The one my grandpa brought home. My mom must have heard them. She walked up behind me wearing what she always wore, now that she didn't have a job to go to. Sweats and a t-shirt and slippers. She'd taken a shower and her hair was wet. We allowed ourselves one a week. Even back then, hot water was a luxury. We couldn't afford to bathe every day. The men were all business. "Ma'am, we have reports of a possible infection. May we look around?" It was the one with glasses who spoke. The other one craned his neck, trying to see into our house. Mom massaged one hand with the other. Her voice was higher than usual, and the words tumbled out. "Just a moment, I'll get my husband." She closed the door, put her hand on my shoulder, and whispered, "He's with Grandpa." I hesitated. I knew Grandpa's room wasn't safe. She kissed my head. "Just stand by the door. You don't have to go in." The odor from his room filled our house. It wasn't death. I knew what that smelled like on account of a rat one time crawled into our front porch and died. No, this was something else, almost sweet. It colored everything. Conversations, dinner, chores, everything. It woke up with you in the morning and urged you to return to your dreams where everything was fine and Grandpa was still okay. I ran down the hall past pictures of our family, but from when things were normal. Some were taken at the mall, with all of us dressed nice, our hair combed, and our faces washed. There were also pictures from their wedding, and one that Mom took of Grandpa and me standing in our backyard. We wore matching baseball caps. You could just see the ball peeking out from inside my leather glove. A lot of kids learn how to throw from their dad. My dad used to travel a lot before. He wasn't home for things like birthdays and Little League games, but Grandpa was there. He moved in with us after he retired. I think he wanted to make sure we were okay, what with Dad being away all the time. He's the one who got me into baseball. We used to sit in the living room and watch games together. He knew all the players, their records, histories, and not just the current ones either. Stars from the past, too, and he'd test me. The commercial would start, and he'd spat out a name like Willie Mays, and I'd come back with Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid, number 24, right-handed, center field, 660 home runs, MVP, and the best goddamn player to ever step onto the field, he'd say. And the best goddamn player to ever step on the field, I'd repeat. Then he'd give me a high five. Right on. Right on. Anyway, one afternoon he came into my room hiding something behind his back. He just stood there grinning. "Pick a hand." I sat up on the bed and touched his right arm. He brought it around and held out a brand new baseball glove. It was about the coolest thing I ever saw. Tan leather with Wilson printed in bold red script along the back of the wrist strap. He grabbed it and stuffed my hand in. It fit tight. The smell of leather and oil filled my nostrils. His other hand held a ball. "Want to break it in?" I swear he almost giggled. "Yeah!" I grabbed the ball and we scampered through the house, out the sliding door and into the yard. We took positions on opposite sides of the lawn, squinting into the sun, still high in the sky. "Oh, I forgot something," he said, reaching into his back pocket. He brought out 2 baseball caps, black with SF printed on the front in bright orange. Official, just like the pros wore. I ran back over to him and he placed it on my head, then pulled the brim up to look at my face. "Fits good." I felt big league, like I was Buster Posey or Madison Baumgartner or something. I nodded, all smiles. "All right," he said, "get out there." I ran back to my place, punching my glove like I'd seen the pros do. "Here it comes." He tossed it underhand. It arched up into the sky and then came down, short, landing with a light thud in the grass. I picked it up. "Nice try," he said. "Next time get your glove under it." I don't know how long we played, but by the time Mom called us for dinner, I'd caught 5 in a row. It got to be our thing. We practiced catching high balls, grounders, wide throws, everything. That was a long time ago. As I stepped quietly to the closed door, I could hear my dad's voice murmur through the thin wood, though I couldn't tell what he said. I made 3 quiet raps. He came out, wiping his face with a handkerchief, and closed the door before I could get a look. The smell snuck out with him. "Is lunch ready?" I shook my head slowly and pointed at the front door. I think maybe he could read my face because he placed his hand behind my neck and whispered, "Why don't you go into your room and open a book?" Even back then, I knew my folks were trying to get rid of me. This time, though, I didn't mind. I went in and laid on my bed. I grabbed a book from my nightstand like he said, then set it down again. There was no way I could read knowing that those men were out there. My parents had told me about the first big sickness. Some people refused to take precautions, to wear masks or get vaccinated. Some folks got sick and died. Some just got sick. Some didn't. This time, it was worse. I grabbed my ball and glove and laid down on my bed. I tossed the ball into the air toward the ceiling. If I looked at it just right and then blinked, it seemed like it hovered for a split second. Then it would fall back down again. I'd wait until the last instant to get the glove under it, just before it smashed into my face. This was my version of meditation, I suppose. I'd do it whenever I was bored or upset about something. Time would go by, and my mind could wander. The mandates had been in effect a long time before Grandpa caught it. Everyone who showed signs of infection had to report to the nearest medical facility or police station. The punishment for noncompliance kept changing, though. They couldn't jail the offenders on account of the way it had spread through the prisons. Fines didn't work either, since no one was working, no one could pay. There wasn't any room in the hospitals. The sick filled the corridors, strapped to their beds. The morgues filled up too. It was so bad that in some towns, they piled the dead in the street, doused them with kerosene, then set them on fire. I remember seeing the piles of dead burning at abandoned intersections. Smoke and the smell of roasted flesh filled the air along with that cloying, sweet odor. Big cities hired people to clear away the blackened corpses, and they came in from all over just so they could work. Voices echoed through the hollow wood of my door. Mom's shrill voice cut through the men's deeper tones. I tossed the ball up. She yelled, "You can't do that!" It came back down and nailed me in the lip. Rubbing my sore mouth, I walked over to the door and leaned against it, laying my ear flat against the cold surface. If I held my breath, I could just make out what they were saying. "Ma'am, there are lots of rumors going around. Your father needs professional care. He needs to be with his family. I've heard what happens in those hospitals." She was almost screaming now. "It's not safe." "Says who? We've had him here for 2 weeks now. We're all fine." "Quite frankly, you've been lucky. There's an ambulance outside. We have to take him before anything happens. Think of your son." "And what if I say no? What if I don't let you? What if—" "Bev, let me try." That was my dad sounding reasonable, trying to make some sort of deal. "Guys, we're observing all precautions. It's safe, I promise. There has to be a middle ground here." Afraid not. It must have been the other guy. Either way, the statement left no room for discussion. I heard the front door open and then more mumbling. I couldn't make out the words. Then I heard footsteps, like a group of people coming into the house. Mom sounded crazy. "You can't," she screamed. "Look, guys," it was my father again. "Give us a second. Let us at least say—" Footsteps marched down the hallway, along with a rumbling sound, almost like they'd taken my dad's chair out of his office. It sounded heavier, though. I opened my door a crack and peered out. The two men I'd seen before stood at my grandfather's door. Two other men, nurses or something, dressed in white, stood next to my folks with a gurney between them. The man with the glasses held a gun out before him in both hands, pointed at the ground. His partner stood in front of the door, with his hand on the knob. Why did they need a gun? My folks stood further down the hall, wrapped in each other's arms. Mom's body shook. Her face turned away. The man with the glasses nodded. His partner turned the knob and pushed the door open, then stepped out of the way. The gun popped up as if it was on a spring, pointed into the room. He took a deliberate step forward. I ran into the hallway. "Don't hurt my grandpa! Leave him alone!" The man with the glasses turned toward me. The gun followed. I stared down the dark muzzle. It was huge, like a long black tunnel. I froze. A shape lunged out of the room, making a strange sound like a cross between a crow's caw and a snake hiss. It barreled into the man with the glasses, smashing him against the wall. Pictures heaved and fell to the ground. Glass shattered on the hardwood floor. There was screaming, so much screaming. The howling figure bashed the man's head against the wall and pinned his face against it with his hand. The man stared at me through his crooked glasses as his attacker, wearing gray flannel pajamas and a nightmarish version of my grandpa's face, opened his mouth wider than a person should be able to and buried his teeth into his neck. All I could do was watch, frozen as his eyes widened with panic and pain. Tears dripped down his face as his blood gushed over my grandpa's chin. Someone rushed forward and shoved me back into my room. The wall shuddered as they slammed the door. "Get down! Get down!" I heard. Then 3 gunshots exploded, one right after the other. Blam! 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 I saw the flashes under the door. It was quiet, then more screams. "Is it dead? Kill it! Kill it!" Another gunshot, then everything went quiet, except for the sound of my mother wailing. I opened the door again, just wide enough to peek through. The hallway looked unfamiliar. Blood smattered and smeared the wall where there had once been pictures. On the floor lay my grandfather, his eyes open, his teeth bared and bloody, a gore-filled hole the size of a baseball just above his ear. "Grandpa? Grandpa?" His face was twisted in a mask of manic fury. Beneath him lay the man with the glasses, only they'd fallen off, and now lay broken beside him in a shiny red pool that grew as I stared. His neck was torn out, and on the side of his face, just above his right eye, was a single, clean bullet hole. Mom and Dad hadn't moved. Sobs racked her body while Dad held her tight. I stepped out into the hall. "Mom?" I whispered. I wanted to go to them, but I couldn't figure out how to get past the blood. The next few weeks passed in a haze. I remember sitting in the courtroom, with the filtered light beaming through the windows like in a church, and the judge telling my father how stupid he and my mom were. No, reckless and irresponsible, that's what he'd said. I couldn't sleep in my room after that, but for some reason, Grandpa's room never scared me. A team had disinfected it along with the rest of our house, so the smell was gone. I could go in there, taking care not to look at the stains in the hallway, and feel like I was close to him, the way he was before. My parents caught me inside and flipped out. They locked the door and forbid me to go back inside. And less than a month later, we moved away. We headed up into the mountains, where they said we'd be safer. They found a house all by itself and put up a big fence around it, even strung an electric wire along the top. We also got a couple of dogs. I liked that. Dad said we'll be okay. We just have to stay up here till they find a cure. There are more chores now. Things like tending the garden, fetching water from the stream. I don't have schoolwork anymore, so that's kind of cool, I guess. The TV stopped working last week. Dad said it's just the feed. The radio doesn't get a signal either. I still keep my glove next to my bed, like at the other house. I miss playing catch.